Welcome to the Ladies in Biz podcast, where every week we have guests that are amazing female entrepreneurs. Find out how they got started and grew their business. Discover how their story can help you grow your business. Thanks for tuning in today. Here is your host, Penny Redmond.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Ladies in Biz, and this week our guest is Helen Latimer from 925 Resources. Hi Helen, how are you doing?
I'm great, Penny. How are you? It's lovely to be here.
Oh, well, in this COVID-19 time, it's really nice to talk to another person.
For sure. I think we're all starved for connection and being with each other.
Yeah, we sure are. And today I asked Helen to come on. Helen's a great friend of mine, and we are both a part of a group called Platinum Pivot. And but I wanted Helen to come on because I wanted her to talk about how you can stand out in a really crowded job market, and specifically because of COVID-19. I think this topic is even more sensitive than it ever has been. So Helen, I'm just going to talk a little bit about who you are, if you don't mind. You're the founder of 925 Resources, and you're a transition coach, and you work with clients to really enrich their careers. So it's really from the beginning of looking for a job right to the very end through their careers. And Helen also provides really actionable advice, and I agree, with warmth and encouragement. And it really, that is an understatement, because when you're working with Helen, you always feel like you're not asking any dumb questions. So Helen, before we get started, just if you could give us a little quick synopsis on how you even got started in this business.
Oh, that's a great place to begin. Well, I'm like many people that I've had different careers over my lifetime. So I started like you in retail, and I had a stint in telecommunications, and honestly, I got burned out. And I really wasn't sure after that what I wanted to do. So I took time out. And I ended up doing some work with a friend. We ended up writing a book about, creating a plan for your life. And that really was kind of the trigger for me that this was something I wanted to spend more time with. And I looked back and I realized that so many of the high points from my corporate life were mentoring and managing and helping the members of my team to develop. And I would often sit down at a performance review, and my questions would be around, well, what are you hoping for in terms of your career here at the organization? Questions that often we forget to ask. So anyway, that's from there I started to get quite purposeful, and for the last almost 10 years now, just really focused on career transition, in particular because I've had experiences with job loss, and it's a time where, if you've got somebody who can guide you, it can make a tremendous difference to your ability to cope with it and to come out feeling, empowered at the end.
There's no one that'll have a career in their life that at some time will be without a job. It's just a natural thing that happens because of how business works today. It doesn't have to be it's not their fault. It's because, and I know you can give all kinds of reasons why people end up not having a job.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of, technology, and a change in technology can both open and create job opportunities. And at the same time, it can also take jobs away or change them so dramatically you need fewer. So there are a lot of reasons why somebody might encounter one or more experiences with job loss. And in today's climate with the COVID-19, a lot of the people, it's got nothing to do with their skills and their abilities. It's strictly external, the external environment that has resulted in so many people losing their jobs.
And really, that kind of leads me into this one question that I have here. I've got a few for you, but really, it would terrify me right now if I was not employed, and with the COVID-19 and with all the uncertainty. So what can a job seeker do at this time to make sure they're taking the best approach?
Yeah, it is even when you're not dealing with COVID-19, experience in a job loss is very traumatic for people. It really shakes the foundation of who we are. For many people, it's not just the financial loss, but it's a sense of we've kind of lost ourselves. That a big part of who we are is tied up in the work we do, and then so you take that on its own, and it's like that's a major life event that you're dealing with, and then you take it, oh, and it's happening not only to me and the people in my organization, but globally. And I think the for most people, I think the first thing to do is to just try and take some time to adjust to the magnitude of the change. Sometimes our response is we're very, we come out of the work, we're action oriented, let's get going, let's get going. And I often think that one of the best things for somebody to do it's kind of slow down to hurry up. Slow down to allow yourself time to process the emotion, to deal with the grief that can sometimes be experienced with job loss, and to contemplate and think, what is it that I want to do in this next step forward? So slowing down for reflection, slowing down to make sure you're mentally prepared to move forward, and getting ready and saying, okay, once you're at that stage, I think some of the next step that you want to take is to really start to get a little bit more focused on understanding yourself and understanding what you can bring to the marketplace. It is a very competitive marketplace. It's hard to compete with so many others. It's hard to stand out. And the work for that always begins, in my opinion, with self-assessment. So first thing is to kind of make sure you've given yourself enough time to adjust. When you feel ready that you can start to do what I call work, then before you start hitting and writing cover letters and your resume and all that busy work, is to, number one is to spend some time with yourself, understanding what it is you want to do, what skills you want to do, what's the work look like, and then you start to begin to take the first few steps in learning how all of the things you need to learn so that you can stand out.
So you probably answered my next question.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's what's the biggest mistake that job seekers can make?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. One is, I think this sort of feeling, and pressure that sometimes comes from within, or sometimes it can be from people around us. Shouldn't you be working on a, finding work kind of feeling? So I think sometimes it is rushing to market, rushing to do things too quickly. And then the second thing I see is job seekers that feel the only thing they need to do is to apply for jobs online. I just need to get my resume up to date. I need to spend hours on Indeed and apply. And I think that's a huge mistake, because the online applications are so competitive and it's so easy for people to apply. It's almost impossible to stand out when you're trying to do it all on paper. And honestly, Penny, resumes are so boring. Like,
Yeah.
that's the other aspect of it. It's a document that is very dry. They're not that interesting to read, and we're putting all our hopes in that these 2 or 3 pieces of paper can help us connect with an employer. And it's sad. It's a very ineffective tactic for job search.
When I was a director of marketing, I know we went on Indeed and we posted a position that was for someone that could do social media. And we got thousands of people coming in. And so how would you tell someone today, how would you differentiate yourself in such a crowded marketplace now?
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I'm not saying don't apply for jobs online. It's too tempting. It's too easy. You can measure it. But you're right. It's like people are getting, the volume of resumes that are coming in now are staggering. I talked to somebody this week, and one of their family members lost their job as a result of COVID and had applied for a position. They received 1,800 applicants. 1,800. So the answer is, how do you make your resume stand out? You can't. You can't. There's not a chance. The volume of it, it's not going to happen. So I think there are other things that you can do to support a job search and to actually help you open doors more easily. And it doesn't mean that you won't end up putting an application in online, but the idea is to try and find people who are working for organizations that you want to work for, who can then guide you, help you look for your resumes, so that as opposed to being one of the 1,800, somebody's coming in and said, oh, I'm expecting a resume package and an application from Penny Redmond. Can you find it for me? Whole different thing. So the technique I look at it is, it's job loss is a business problem. And we need to use business tactics to resolve it for ourselves. It's happening to us personally, so it makes it challenging. But the more we can kind of be business-like about our approach, I think the more effective we are. So just like any business, you want to understand the services that you offer, that you're bringing to market. So starting with that self-assessment, really understanding not just a list of things that you've done, not just a list of your skill set, but really getting in and being able to articulate how you can create value for an organization. What kind of problems can you solve? How can you make a difference? Sometimes I talk with my clients and I say, think of people you've worked with who had a very similar role to you. You don't all do it to the same level. Some are more gifted at it than others. So what makes somebody really good at what you do? What is it that you do differently from others? How did you differentiate yourselves even when you were working in an organization? So you have to start with that. And you have to be very targeted. Starbucks doesn't sell coffee to everybody. Starbucks has a particular market that they're trying to reach. And all of their marketing messages are aimed at that target market. But job seekers, often, it's like they're applying all over the place. They're applying very broadly. I'm sure, Penny, you've met people and you'll say, oh, what kind of work are you looking for? Oh, anything. Or, and it's like, you can't look everywhere like that. You have to be targeted. You got to narrow it down. So I think it's like, yes, it's a marketing, it's a sales, it's a business development. What is the objective? It's a job. Be very specific about the type of job, the organization and narrow it down. Pick 3 or 4 and really dig deep. Do your best to understand those organizations from everything you can read about them, and then do your best to reach out and meet people who work for those organizations.
Oh no, you're talking about networking.
I am. I'm talking about a very specific kind of networking. It's reaching out to people to see if they can help you learn more about the organization, to see if they can help you market your skills and services, if they can help you navigate the hiring process. And it's a way, you're also wanting to meet them so you can understand more about the corporate culture. Is this an organization where I actually want to work?
Yeah, I think that's just as important as anything, is making sure that you're going to fit in right with the organization.
Absolutely. We've all been in jobs where it's not been a great fit, or we've worked with somebody and you kind of go, they don't really fit in with the group. It's very uncomfortable for everybody. And sometimes job seekers, especially when they know they're trying to compete with other candidates, they forget that often it's the fit. It's, are you going to be able to work well with my team? Are you going to be able to work well with my clients? Are you going to be the type of person who, likes to hang out after work the way we like to hang out after work? Or are you a person who likes to go home the way we all like to go home? So the cultural fit is really important. And you can't learn these things from a company's website or what they're posting on social media. I really find there's such tremendous value to having short meetings where you, in a sense, are interviewing the person at the company. And in job search lingo, we call them informational interviews, but I like to use the word research meeting because I think it keeps it very business-like.
Yes.
And this is such an important technique. I find that company, find people who work at that company, somebody who can introduce you. LinkedIn is great for this, and set up those meetings. It's a wonderful way to be able to get information that's useful, but it's also a wonderful way to find out, is this somebody who would be able to help you with your job search? Is this somebody who could introduce you to somebody at the organization who's got an opening, a referral? Oh yeah, they're hiring over in the marketing department. Penny, you're great. I can tell already you would fit in with our organization. Let me introduce you to the manager of the department. And people will, when I talk about it, they'll go, but that's not the way it works. And I'm like, actually, yes, it is the way it works. I know so many people for organizations, large and small, who hire based on a referral. It's actually the number 2, what they call source of hire. And, I'm like, we all love that extra bit of confidence. I'm sure, Penny, you've had situations where you're looking for a place to go for dinner, and you might ask somebody, do you have you been to a good place? Or, I need to find a new hairdresser.
Absolutely.
When we're hiring for ourselves, we love to have the comfort of a referral. And it's no different when a company is making an investment in an employee. Having somebody who can vouch for you, who can say, yeah, this person's a good person, this person's going to fit in to our culture, is so important. And yeah, people don't like to do it. They really don't.
It does differentiate you from everybody else as well, because you've made that connection where no one else has made that connection.
Absolutely. It's not a new technique. It's not something that Helen made up. It goes back to when I was back in university. This is what I did to find my first job out of school. You pull. I can't remember the book, if it was likely What Color Is My Parachute, and so the technology allows us to do it in a different way. But that value of being able to actually meet with somebody, whether it's virtual or in person, even for 5 minutes. You've had an amazing opportunity to create a rapport, let somebody get to kind of look and see, and boy, it absolutely will help you compete. And it puts you in a whole different tier when the application process actually is taking place, because you're not relying on that boring piece of paper to stand out. You've done your work and you've stood out. So somebody's going to come and help you and bring you into the company. It's harder. It's more, you feel more vulnerable. It's harder to deal with some of the no's. Not everybody's going to agree to meet with you, but it's the most effective approach, I believe.
It definitely is. And I think if you can think back, I know I can tell you every single job that I've ever done, whether it as an entrepreneur doing it in business, or as an entrepreneur, it's always been from a referral.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. If, with anyone finding a job, whether you're in business or going to go to business, it's the same routine. It doesn't change. It's been around, just like you said, for centuries.
Well, and I think it is because it's a very big decision for a company to make, and there's nervousness. It's easy to think, oh, as the job seeker, I'm the one who's got all the nervousness, but actually there's anxiety from the hiring manager. What if I hire the wrong person?
Absolutely.
What if they don't work out? It'll
big time.
Yeah. So it is a way of helping the hiring manager find ways to deal with their anxiety. But I also think it's just part of being sort of good at our job. If you're to network and to build a professional network helps us be more effective in our roles once we're hired. And I think it can help us to have more ideas, to keep current. I mean, there's a wealth of reasons why there's benefit to having a professional network. So I often say to my clients, don't stop reaching out and connecting with others. just because you're back at work. The other aspect is you're back at work for now.
Yes,
And
exactly.
having a professional network will dramatically, that's already there, will dramatically reduce the amount of time it takes you if there's another job loss some years down the road.
Well, the other thing is too, not to feel nervous about reaching out to people to do a research, as you call it, not infomercial. It's a research meeting instead, meetup, I guess. But because it's to their advantage too, the people, the managers, really good managers want to do those. They want to have people that they know, even if it doesn't pertain to their specific area, that they know that if they're part of a company, then they can bring in somebody else that that
Yeah.
they can reference or refer to, and it's really is much better for the whole business.
Absolutely. I think you get to a certain level in an organization, and I do think it should be part of your job is to make sure that you're always kind of putting feelers out for people who might be good potential candidates for your organization, whether it's your own department or somebody else. And if you want to get promoted, you got to make sure there's somebody, right, who's going to
Oh,
be a good
yeah,
candidate to replace you. So I do think
absolutely.
there are very practical reasons for somebody's self-interest within the organization, but I also think that a lot of people were given a helping hand themselves, and it's a nice way to give back because I suspect in a room of 100, 99 of us would put our hand up and said, yeah, we've held help along the way, and that help made a big difference. And here's a way that I can do that and give back to somebody else and be that helping hand. Yeah, a lot of people like that, have that kind of mindset.
So I imagine you have some tips for us during this self-isolating and practicing our physical distancing. How can you network? Do you have any couple of tips that you can give us?
Yeah, absolutely. One is there's a lot of online activity happening now, whether they're webinars, whether it's training, all kinds of networking groups. Meetup has moved online, the Business Networking International, BNI, where I'm a member, all across the world. All of those meetings are now virtual, and they are welcoming visitors. But it's training, it's online volunteering, it's reaching out and sending a note to somebody. There's lots. Don't let "I can't go out" stop you. You can use Zoom to request these kinds of meetings. You you can start with people, just even going back to people that you used to work together, and just checking in. How are they doing? You can start where it's comfortable, right? Start
Yeah.
reconnecting with former clients, with suppliers, with colleagues that you used to work with. You can start with the people that it's comfortable.
So I'm going to throw one out for myself because I'm the digital queen. Is that Facebook groups? Find a
Yeah.
Facebook group too that has an interest. Just because it's not your job or it's related to your job, those people all know people that are in your industry. So, and if you have a special something that you connect with, they'll connect with you, and great referrals come from that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think often we feel we can, if we're doing something around something we love, a hobby, or something related to our neighborhood, sometimes that allows us to be a little bit more confident about reaching out. Well, I don't want to go to a business event. I'm a little uncomfortable with that, but I would go to this other thing. I would go to this, I don't know, knitting group, book group, movie discussion, a game night. If you pick something where you're comfortable with, the activity or the content, well, you can still have a conversation. And we're very quick in Canada to get to the, and what do you do? So you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to all be done in a business uh, setting. You can start with things that you're actually are enjoyable and give you pleasure, and start with that.
Well, that's a good starting point. But what happens if you start that? What's next? I mean, you can't just do everything that you just like. So what other tips can you give us for networking?
Yeah. So that's a one place to start. Is to look, kind of within your first contact sphere. So going back and talking to people that are in your network already, so former colleagues, classmates, neighbors, and then you can start to reach a little bit further out. Maybe they were people that you haven't been in contact with for a while. LinkedIn is a great way if you're kind of looking for, who and then where are they now? Because in some respects, the people that are closest to you are often the least helpful because you often know many of the same people. And
Yes.
it's only as you start to meet people that are a little bit further out or you haven't been in contact with for a while where they can actually be more helpful to you because you know very different people. So you can try and do things like that where you're just reaching out with one person. It doesn't all have to be done in a group. And I think a change, sort of reframing it. When you think of networking, we sometimes think it's all about, well, here's something I need you to do for me, and it's pushy. And if you approach networking in, I just want to get to know, let's catch up, Penny. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what each of us has been up to. When you change the framing, let's just connect and share, then I think that also makes it a little bit easier. So start with people over time, then reach out to people that you haven't been in contact. Reframe. Don't think of it as network. Think of connect and share. And don't be afraid to say, I actually could use some help. And the help can be, do you know anybody? Can you introduce me? Do you have any advice for me? Like, don't be afraid. People are often shy or uncomfortable saying, I actually do need help with this. And would you mind?
Often though, the first time you do it, you feel really awkward about it and uncomfortable and reaching out, it makes you nervous. But the more often you do it, then the more comfortable you get. And then you start enjoying it.
Yes. And I think also too, you can think about how you respond if somebody comes to you looking for advice. Often we might feel flattered. It's nice, or we're happy to see the person's name, nice to get in touch with me. So I think there's also that element of, don't always think, don't make it too much about you. Think about how for the other person, this actually might be kind of nice for them that you're
Oh, I am
reaching
so
out.
happy to help.
Yeah.
Like it's someone's, friend's child that's just getting started or
Hmm.
things have happened for them. You want to be able to help them.
Yes.
I think that's more natural than not wanting to help.
I think so, and I think those feelings are very strong right now during COVID-19, with people feeling isolated. I think we really, um, even people who are predisposed, there's kind of this urge to help others, and there's an urge to try and make things better for other people. So a couple of my clients are in the process of going through and setting up all of these types of research meetings, are actually having great success. That there's quite a willingness of people, almost an eagerness to have an opportunity to connect with somebody. So don't if you're a job seeker, it really is a great technique to help you stand out. And I think you will find you're going to have maybe greater success with getting people to agree to have these short meetings with you than you might have had, a year ago. I don't know for sure, but certainly there's a high level of success.
How long do you think the meeting should be then?
Oh, I think they should be short. I always think just ask for 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay. And have your questions ready.
Oh, absolutely. It's a business meeting. That's the part for me. I go, you want to set the agenda. You got to think about what is it that you want to ask. So you want to set an agenda. You want to propose a meeting time, a meeting duration, the location. So we're going to Zoom or we're going to phone. And I think you want to have your questions ready. You want to be seen taking notes. So that the person is aware that the information is received with some seriousness. So I very much like the term meeting to come into it, because I think it helps people understand how do I set this up, and what's my responsibility? Your responsibility, you scheduled it, it's your meeting, you got to run it, you got to make sure it finishes on time. But I don't think you need to ask for a lot of time, because we make up our minds about the people we meet, rightly or wrongly, in very short amount of time. It doesn't take a long time. You can tell in just a few minutes whether somebody's prepared, whether there's a rapport starting to be generated. So you don't need an hour. 10 or 15 minutes, you'll be able to accomplish what you need, and you'll leave a good impression. It's easy for people to find 10 minutes of time. And just make sure you get more introductions. Make sure you leave that meeting with more people to go and meet.
And I think there's, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I mean, I've been on these meetings many times. And I find there's kind of two groups. There's one group where they're going to give you all kinds of information and it's just going to funnel. And there's another group that's going to ask you a lot of questions. So I think you've got to be prepared for either one of those situations.
Absolutely. I think I also, and I think this is where making sure that before, this goes back almost to the beginning of our conversation, where you've got to be ready. You've got to have done your self-assessment. You have to understand how you want to create value for organizations. You have to understand what you are good at, because absolutely right, Penny. Someone's going to ask you, while you're here, tell me a little bit about you. And you want to have a strong answer. You don't get a second shot at that.
No, you don't say, well, I went out for coffee this morning and
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so I don't know too many people that along the way don't somehow get discouraged. Can you give us a quick synopsis on what are you going to do if you all of a sudden you feel really discouraged?
Yeah, I think one, it's normal to feel discouraged, and you might even say be prepared for it, because it's very hard work. You can put a lot of effort into your job search and have no results. There's nobody giving you an "atta girl, you did everything you were supposed to do." It can be very discouraging. So you do have to figure out, I'm going to get discouraged. What am I going to do? So some things that work, and they may not work for you, but I'll put them out there. I mean, sometimes it's just keeping track of all of your activity, and so that you can look at you can go back and look all of the things that you did this week. Check boxes and things like that. You can
You're saying to really keep track of whatever you're doing for your job.
Yeah, because sometimes you can lose sight of all of the things that you've done. So if you think, where you were, you can kind of go, okay, 3 weeks ago, I just left the office or whatever it was. I left the office for the last time, or I got my notice, and I'm feeling, this is never going to end. But you can look back on what have you done, or what were you able to accomplish. It's kind of like you're partway up the hill. And yes, there's still quite a bit to go, but you can look back and go, yeah, I'm making some strides. You can also just check in with somebody else and just say, hey, I need to talk to somebody. I'm feeling discouraged, and I just need you to kind of listen and help pick me up. You can take some time off. You can say, I'm feeling discouraged and I need to take a break. Go outside, do some baking, go be with your dog, whatever it is. But you can take a break and go, yeah, I am feeling discouraged. One of the things that I used to do was I went and I had from the dollar store, like one of those big pieces of Bristol board. And I covered it with the word no. And at the bottom right-hand corner in big bright letters, I put the word yes. And every time I got something, no, can't do, it's not going, I would go and cross out a no. And it was my way of going, I have to have activity, even if the result of that activity isn't the answer I wanted. I got to keep going. The more no's I get, and the quicker I get them, the quicker I'm at my yes. So finding little things that can help you deal with that sort of those feelings, really important. And sometimes it's really personal. What works for one doesn't work for somebody else.
I think that at the very beginning, and I'm going to mention it again, it is about mindset. And really, if you're ready to even start looking for a job, and really do give allow yourself some time to be able to get in the right mindset for it.
Absolutely. I've met with people 2 or 3 days after their job loss, and they're angry. They have not fully processed it. There's a stress, there's a fear, there's so much emotion. They're not going to be able to put their best professional foot forward because there's just too much going on, and it means that people are not going to be, I'm going to call, attracted. You're going to be pushing people away because the energy is not enticing. You're giving off the wrong kind of energy, and that's the danger. That's the danger. And it also, I think it's really important. We have to process these kinds of emotions because they can have, potential problems for us later, a few weeks down the line, if we just kind of keep pushing them down and pushing them down. That's not good for our stress. So yes, absolutely. Take that time, step back in order to go forward.
So is there anything else, the very last thing that you want everyone to leave with and say, if you learn one thing from today, this is what I want you to remember?
Oh, I guess, well, maybe we didn't talk about it, but I guess one thing to take away from today is manage it. Your job search is a business problem. So be business-like as you work out how you're going to resolve it. That mindset will help guide you and make sure that you are kind of giving yourself the best opportunity to succeed, is making sure treat it like a business problem. It'll help you with the time management, the goal setting, the clarity of your objective, knowing who you're targeting. It'll help you understand, the importance of being able to articulate how you create value. That one idea, I think, can really make a difference.
Well, Helen, you gave us lots of great stuff, specifically right now for job seekers at this time. It's difficult anytime, but everything that you've told us and all the tips and advice that you've given us will be certainly helpful no matter what is happening in the world at that time. And so I appreciate you coming down and letting us know some of these tips. So can you tell me where people can connect with you?
Absolutely. They can connect with me. I love email. So I'm at helen@925resources.com.
So, and we'll put that down in the notes below so everyone will be able to see it, but just in case, so it's Helen
at 925resources.com.
Okay, got it. That's excellent.
Thanks for listening to the Ladies in Biz. Send us your comments on ladiesinbiz.com. We would like to hear from you.